Historic horse racing games, more commonly known as HHR games, are something that has really been growing in popularity and are fairly commonplace in some parts of the country. But what are they? How do they work? And is there any advantage that you, the player, have over these games? In today's episode, we are talking all about HHR. Welcome to the Cowboy Slot Channel, where we bring you experienced advice from years of working in the casino industry, tips, reviews, and so much more. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell to stay notified for when we come out with future episodes. At the Global Gaming Expo 2022, we had a chance to talk to a lot of vendors that provide HHR games all across the country, and got to know more about how they work from industry experts. One of the most noteworthy takeaways from the expo is that we learned the real popularity of these games and just how fast HHR is growing. These games are being implemented in more places in the country that otherwise would have had very minimal gaming activities available. This really leads us into our first initial opening statement, and that is about legalities. It is extremely important to understand that while these games look, feel, and act like slot machines, they are not legally considered slot machines. They don't work the same way, and they follow completely different legalities. The guidelines that these games fall under is called parimutuel gaming, which is regulated and controlled by the state. Unlike casinos, individual facilities with these games pretty much have their hands tied and have very minimal control over what exactly they can do with the games. In some jurisdictions, the state will even send people to these facilities to maintain them, which removes the facility's staff entirely from the picture. The positives to these games is that they can be in more places where slot machines otherwise would not be allowed, giving communities and states a lot more revenue. Another positive to these games is that it gives players that casino-style experience in places that otherwise might not allow casinos. The drawback, again, is fairly clear, and I cannot stress this enough: these are not slot machines. So for these style games, it's really hard to implement any kind of strategic plan on identifying which game is going to be better over another. These games do not work in the same fashion, and while there is volatility in everything in life, the volatility on these machines is really difficult to gauge. Another positive to these HHR games, which is kind of similar to Class 2 games, is that on these machines, you typically have higher prize amounts and higher progressive amounts even at lower limits and lower bets, which of course is going to be very enticing to a lot of players out there. However, always keep in mind that those higher prize amounts are still going to be pretty difficult to achieve. So how do HHR games work? Unlike a slot machine that will pull random numbers to assign the reels to either a winning or losing combination, these HHR games assign horses and then pull a historic horse race from the past and run the horses in a race when you hit that spin button. However, these races can be from anywhere in history, and you never know what race the machine is going to pull. Also, unlike slot machines, you can do what is called handicapped betting on these machines, where you can actually pick the horses ahead of time before you initiate the spin. I kind of similarize the handicap betting to changing a bingo card on a Class 2 machine. I really don't see any main point to do this because you really don't know what the system is going to pull next, but some players really like the enjoyment of being able to pick their own horses for the next race to come. I guess if you sat there and played millions and millions of spins with the exact same horses, you might get lucky and pull that winning race, but again, it is a very far stretch. Personally, for me, I would just let the machine automatically pick the horses at random. So, can you win on these HHR games? Yes, absolutely, of course you can, but do not treat it the same as slot machines. With slots, you can look at the pay table and you can get a pretty good idea of its volatility and the options that the RNG has to choose from. However, with these historic horse racing machines, it is pulling what could potentially be hundreds of thousands of historic horse races, and everything on the screen is merely just a visual. I will say this though, there have been many winners on these games, some players getting very lucky and hitting jackpots in excess of $500,000 off of very small, very minimal bets. I guess, of course, that is a big perk with HHR games, is you do have that potential to win a really high jackpot or high progressive amount at a much lower bet. But as we've discussed in previous videos, and these HHR games are no exception, we never recommend chasing those high prizes and high progressives. So what can you do when playing these games if these are something that you want to play or have in your area? My biggest advice for these HHR games is actually to low roll it and just play for the enjoyment of the game itself. Watch your budget and set aside a small amount to play on. Remember that with HHR games, the prize amounts are typically really high even at the lower bets. So with these games, do not overextend yourself trying to play a higher bet or a higher denom. This is probably one of those few instances where penny machines and lower bets and lower denoms are actually going to be a safer bet for you, the player. If these games are something that are in your area or that you play frequently, I'm sure that you can do a lot of research individually on past results from historic horse races and do more research on handicap betting. But again, I really liken that to changing the bingo card on a class 2 machine. And after speaking with these industry experts on how these machines actually work, I personally don't see any advantage to it. But if it's something that you're going to play a lot or play frequently, it's something that you might want to look into. Just always remember, of course, you never know what race it's going to pull from the system. We can expect to see a lot more HHR games popping up in the near future as parimutuel gaming is really growing in popularity in many states and many jurisdictions. As this type of gaming increases and changes over time, we'll of course come out with more updates and information on exactly what's going on in the world of HHR. Aside from all of that, there really is not much else to look for in these machines. These games are a slot style experience at best, and my biggest recommendation is to just watch your budget, low roll it, and enjoy it for the game. Save those higher bet amounts for an actual casino. Thanks so much for watching. Check out these other videos and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more slot tips. It's always free. Visit ropethejackpot.com for free guides and a whole lot more. Catch you on the next episode.